Hey, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Ivy, and today I'm going to be talking about One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus. This is the second book in, I think it's a duology. The first book is called One of Us Is Lying. I would recommend reading that before you read this one, but you don't have to. This video is going to have minor spoilers for that book. Also, just gonna get right into spoilers of this book because it is a mystery thriller type of thing, and I really don't know how to explain it without spoiling. If you don't want to be spoiled for this book, or One of Us Is Lying, leave this video now. This takes place, I think, the school year after the first book, and we have a completely new cast of characters, but first of all, I wanted to just talk about where the Bayview Four are now. Bronwyn's at Yale, which is pretty exciting. I mean, that's obviously very good for her. She's also been very on and off with Nate lately. Nate is working for Mr. Myers' construction company, and he's also taking classes at the community college, which is awesome. We love that for him. Addie works at Cafe Contigo, and I can't remember if she was taking community college classes or not. I want to say no, but I'm not sure. Cooper is on a baseball scholarship, and the whole town has been like rallying around him and watching him play baseball, which I think is super awesome. They're also thinking that Cooper's probably going to go pro, which is very exciting. Like I mentioned, we have completely new perspectives in this book. It's told from 3 different points of view this time. Maeve is Bronwyn's younger sister. I was really excited to see more of Maeve in this book since she helped so much in the last book, and I could just tell that she was a pretty cool person. She is seriously smart and very skilled. Like, this girl is hacking into things left and right. She's also super quiet and shy, and she's not the best at making friends, which is so relatable. She feels like she's kind of not stealing Bronwyn's friends, but she's like, they were Bronwyn's friends first, and if it weren't for Bronwyn, then they wouldn't be my friends, which is kind of depressing, but also so relatable. The other thing that I can super relate to is how she really does not want to have to think about her future. Like, the book opens with that scene where Bronwyn is pressuring her to, you know, figure out her life, and she's only, what, like 16? As a teenager, it can be stressful to be expected to know what you want to do with the rest of your life when you're confused about everything. Another thing I loved about Maeve was all her superstitions. I thought that was a really cool detail to the character. I also really enjoy Maeve's relationship with Bronwyn. I think they have a super healthy sister relationship, and if I had a sister, that's what I would want. It was very interesting how Maeve is kind of throughout the book going through this whole conflict inside of her where she doesn't really want to get close to anyone new because she thinks, you know, she might not live very long because of her cancer. I honestly have very mixed feelings about how cancer was handled in this book. It showed how intense and horrible it can be, but I feel like it was also just used in some ways to create tension between Maeve and some of the other characters, which maybe isn't so good. I really don't know what to think, and I finished this book several days ago now, and I still don't really know what I think. It was very nice, though, to see how far Maeve comes by the end of the book from being super closed off and just not wanting to, you know, meet anyone new or let anyone in, to finally just being not scared of it anymore. So that was really nice. Then we have Phoebe Lawton, and I liked Phoebe a lot. So she works at Cafe Contigo, and if I could go to Cafe Contigo right now, I would. It's like such a cute, fun place. All the kids are always hanging out there. Like, all the workers are super nice. The family that owns it is super nice. Phoebe's kind of sort of popular. I couldn't really figure out her, like, popularity, because it kind of implied that she was popular, but then she really only seemed to have, like, the one friend, Jules, so I was kind of confused about that. The other thing about Phoebe is that she is known for hooking up with a ton of guys, and she owns it, you know, she is aware, and, like, she is proud of it, you know, like this is what she does and that's okay. It was very interesting to see Phoebe's dynamics with her siblings, Owen and Emma, because after their father died in a freak accident like several years before, you know, they've completely just fallen apart, like all of their sibling relationships, and they're just not close anymore, which is really sad. I do think that Phoebe had some really nice character growth because, for one, she finally, by the end, realizes that she deserves better than how guys like Brandon have been treating her, and she knows that that's not okay. I also thought it was really cool how, in the end of the book, the three Lawton siblings kind of come together, but I'll talk more about that later. And then we have Knox Myers, who was my favorite character, and can I just say that the name Knox is so cool? Like, I might have a new baby name idea. Knox works for Eli at Until Proven, which is like a law firm or something. I don't know, I didn't really pay attention. Something with law and legal stuff. He used to be super into drama club, but he's not anymore, and he's kind of figuring out that he's growing out of theater, and he's kind of coming to terms with that throughout this book. I mean, it's not really a major part at all, but it's there. He has some serious issues in his relationship with his dad. I was happy though at the end that they seem to be going in the right direction, because his dad seemed to understand that he's been in the wrong, but Knox also seems to understand that he's been a bit in the wrong, so I think that was really well done. I think just over the course of this book, Knox really just comes into himself and realizes that he's, you know, he doesn't have to be like Brandon and Sean and all the other guys. Like, he can be Knox, and he can be okay and good in that way. Despite all the crap that happens to him in this book, he really, I think, comes out of it more mature and just more comfortable in his own skin, and that made me so happy because, I don't know, I'm just really proud of him. Something that I was not the biggest fan of in this book was the romances. I will say that they both sort of served a purpose, but at the same time, they just felt really unnecessary. I don't know, I just wasn't invested. I guess it's just not the point of this book for me. The point is the mystery. But I get that Maeve needed, like, to let herself be happy with Louis and, like, accept that just having a relationship with someone wasn't going to hurt them, but even if it did hurt them, it would be worth it for them. So I think that was necessary for Maeve. I also think that Phoebe needed to find someone to treat her right, and Knox needed to, like, realize that there's nothing wrong with him, because I feel like throughout the book he kept thinking, like, oh, I'll never be able to, you know, date someone because I'll never be good enough, but he finally realizes that he is good enough. So I guess that was good. The thing that bugged me about that whole thing was how Phoebe kept thinking to herself, you know, one day Knox is gonna be really hot. Who says that in their head? Like, one day that kid's gonna be super hot. Like, you know, like, why, who even thinks that way? Like, I know it was trying to create tension or whatever, but seriously? I really did like the trio of Phoebe, Knox, and Maeve, how they all ended up working together in the end. And I was so glad that Knox and Maeve ended up kind of making up at the end and having their friendship be so strong, because I don't know, I really liked them and their dynamic. One person who I did not like was Jules. From the moment I first met her in the car when she was talking about how she wanted to be with Nate, even though Bronwyn is so obviously in love with Nate and he's so obviously in love with Bronwyn, Jules is still like, no, I want him for myself. And she acts all offended when Phoebe, like, doesn't want to be friends with her anymore, but hello, Jules, you're the problem. You're the one who laughed along in the cafeteria that one time. She's just not my favorite person, and the fact that she and Phoebe kind of made up at the end made me so angry, because Jules does not deserve Phoebe at all. Like, Phoebe is so much better than Jules. She just needs to be with Maeve and Knox and have fun times all the time and just forget about Jules because Jules sucks. Goodness gracious, I don't know. I just feel very strongly that Jules is a horrible person. I do understand that Jules and Sean went through something super traumatic, but that doesn't give you the right to be so awful. And plus, they were awful before that even happened. Okay, so let's just finally talk about the mystery. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so well done. It was so unique. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. There were so many things that I didn't see coming, and it's probably just me being dumb, but I was shocked. I think the setup of this book is great. Just there's a student who's dead. We don't know how or why or like any specifics at all. We also know that there's these people talking on a revenge forum, and if that doesn't catch your attention, then I don't know what will. I found it very interesting how Simon's influence was so prevalent throughout the entire book, like how it's influencing not just this truth or dare game, but also how the characters themselves think and how they respond to everything. There were so many little details in this book that were so intentionally placed. There was not a single thing in this book that wasn't there for a reason. The things that I thought would be super important ended up not being, and the things that I just brushed over and thought, oh, that's really random, why is that in there, ended up being super important, which I guess I should have known because that's how these books work, but again, I'm not the smartest. The truth or dare concept was so exciting to me, and I was honestly just as addicted as the characters, and if I were in their situation, I don't know if I would have been able to block unknown. I really don't. As soon as Phoebe's secret was revealed, I was like, okay, so this is happening. Something I don't understand is why no one reported this because of the history that this school has with this sort of thing. Like, I understand that the principal has like a zero tolerance policy, and if something is reported, then like they won't have phones. But are we really that addicted to our phones that we wouldn't report something like this? I feel like there would have been at least one person in that school who would have reported it. Emma Lawton, Phoebe's older sister, is such a good actor. I don't understand how she acted so upset and like so shocked by Phoebe's secret with Derek. I really don't understand how Emma pulled that off. I honestly was suspicious of Emma though. As soon as she made that comment about tutoring Sean Murdoch super late or something, and I was like, oh, there's something going on there. I don't think that's actually what she was doing last night. Looking back on it now, I should have put together all the connections between Phoebe, Jules, and Sean because Emma knew all of them. The first dare happens, which is Sean replacing the chicken's head with the school mascot, which is pretty funny, but this started to make me think that maybe Unknown was on the popular kids side, like maybe it was one of the popular kids just trying to make themselves more popular. As soon as Maeve found the revenge forum, it was pretty obvious that Darkest Mind was behind Truth or Dare. Another thing I found interesting was that Derek's connection to Jules was never really addressed because they were like, oh yeah, I think he knew her cousin or something, and I thought that was gonna become really important to the story, but it wasn't. When Jules came into Cafe Contigo and just kissed Nate in front of everyone, I hated her even more. Like, yeah, you were dared to, and if you didn't do it, your biggest secret would be revealed to the school, but you don't just do that. Like, she could have kissed Addie or something, or Cooper. Like, Cooper is gay, he's with his boyfriend, that wouldn't have done anything, but she had to kiss Nate. After that dare, I was thinking that maybe Unknown had a grudge against the Bayview Four, like he was trying to tear them apart or something like that. When Eli cut his hair and the one guy at Until Proven, I think Sandeep was his name, when Sandeep was like, whoa, you never cut your hair, are you good? Then I was super suspicious about Eli. I was like, why is Eli over here chopping off his hair and acting out of character? What's going on with him? I should have realized at the very first mention of the death threats to Eli that it was going to come back and be connected, but my dumb butt was like, oh, I think this is just like a thing that's happening on the side. Nothing in these books happens just on the side, and I don't know why I thought that. I also can't believe I didn't make the connection between Knox saying that his mom had worked on a case with the Lawton's dad, and also Knox knowing that his mom worked on a case with Brandon. Like, of course they're the same thing. When Intense Guy first showed up at Cafe Contigo, I thought for sure it was Derek, and looking back on it now, that would have been way too obvious. I have to say that Maeve's willpower in this book is incredible. Like, this girl just ignores the texts, and I would have gone for the dare so fast. So then we start to realize that Bayview 2020 is also somehow working with Darkest Mind. Looking back on it now, the scene where Emma finds out that Phoebe had been hooking up with Brandon makes so much more sense now, because I really thought she was overreacting, because, you know, like, yeah, Brandon's a jerk, but it's not that big of a deal. So what if they make out under the bleachers every once in a while? But now it all makes sense. I felt so bad for Knox when Maeve's secret came out. It really wasn't Maeve's secret, it was Knox's, but yikes. When Maeve and Louis were making out in the kitchen at Cafe Contigo, and then Manny came in and interrupted them, then I was suspicious of Manny. I was like, why is he back? Like, is he doing something nefarious? When Emma was sick, like, the first mention of her being sick, I was like, okay, Emma, there's something happening with that girl. Obviously, when Brandon dies, it was upsetting, I guess. I mean, I wasn't upset because, like, I didn't like him, but it was upsetting for the whole school. I was super suspicious of Sean and Jules and Monica for obvious reasons. Immediately after Brandon dies, Darkest Mind starts asking where Bayview 2020 is, and that was, oh god, I should have seen it so much sooner than I did. Realized that the Truth or Dare game stopped because the whole plan all along was to kill Brandon. When Emma starts drinking, again, this was another thing that made me feel like something was really, really wrong. I was still super suspicious of Derek. I thought maybe Derek was somehow doing the Truth or Dare and Emma knew about it. When Knox tries to get Sean's phone in, like, the saddest attempt ever, it was so sad but so funny. I thought it was really cool of Louis to get the files for Knox. I really did like the scene where Nate finds out that Maeve's cancer might be back and he finally convinces her to tell her parents about it. It was just really nice to see him kind of watch out for her and take care of her, because she really needed that in that moment. The video of what happened the day Brandon died was intense. I can't even imagine watching that, especially if I was Knox. Then when Emma says the thing like, I didn't think he would keep going, I seriously don't know how I missed all these signs. Like I said, I was suspicious, but I still didn't know how exactly she was involved. When our crew decided to go and stalk the stalker, why? This seems like a really bad idea. Don't you think at this point maybe someone should talk to an adult? I mean, I'm glad they didn't, because that would have made the story so much more boring, but still. So I had assumed that Intense Guy was also Derek, but it wasn't. And that was when I started questioning everything. The scene where Emma had alcohol poisoning was super intense. I can't even imagine what it would have been like to be Owen in that situation, or obviously Phoebe, but being Owen and being so young and experiencing that, like, I'm 15 and I don't even know how I would handle that. Probably very badly. When Maeve hacked into Knox's mom's laptop and she sees the file with the title about the, like, granite construction thing, and she just doesn't read it, I screamed. But then they figure out that Jared Jackson, I think that was his name, is unknown, and he wants revenge on Eli because his brother got sent to jail. What are you doing? Stop! Can't you tell I'm in the middle of something? I don't want either of them.
That's it.
Okay, can you leave? I can't believe I didn't pay attention to the font conversation at Until Proven. Like, it was so obviously gonna come back. I was like, oh, that was a weird thing to say. Knox realizes from the font that this person who is Jared, who is unknown, wants revenge on Eli. Knox finally reads the file that I was yelling at Maeve to read. Brandon Weber basically caused the death of Phoebe and Emma's dad. And oh my god, that was the moment when I knew for sure that it was Emma. Like, they were like, oh my gosh, Phoebe? And I was like, no, you idiots. There are multiple Lawton children. The scene with the bomb was pretty intense. Like, as soon as they started following him and he was, you know, driving away, I figured that was where it was headed, but it was still intense and kind of crazy. I was so proud of Knox for doing what he did, and also Maeve, but I feel like Knox really took the lead in that situation. When we're at the hospital with Phoebe, and she calls Derek, and he's like, oh, I told Emma that we slept together. It all makes sense now. When the police officer thought Phoebe was behind it, I was like, Phoebe, hello, it was obviously your sister Emma. Like, what else could have possibly happened? Emma finally admits to doing what she did, and I was so relieved because I was just like, how long can this possibly go on with them thinking it was actually Phoebe? Emma really only wanted Brandon to get hurt, and she wanted to stop as soon as Truth or Dare began, so I honestly do feel bad for her. Guilt that girl must be feeling, though. Oh my gosh. After all this had been revealed, and we know that Jared wanted revenge on Eli, and Emma wanted revenge on Brandon, and they were gonna team up to help each other out with their separate revenge plots. I was like, oh, okay, this is all starting to fit together. And then when Emma was like, but I stopped. Like, I wasn't talking to him after Truth or Dare started. I was like, but then who? And then it was like, it was Owen, the 12-year-old who was just playing video games all the time? I was so not okay. I thought we were done. I thought we had figured it out. I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, everything's gonna be okay. But no. Owen would have known that Brandon killed their father, but he also saw Brandon hurt Phoebe. He's also really good at tech, and he would have been there to hear Maeve at the cafe when she told Bronwyn about what happened with Knox, and everything just clicked into place, and I was losing my mind. I also think that it's very, 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 very possible that Jellyfish on the Revenge Forum was actually Owen, because it kept mentioning Jellyfish and how it was like one of the names of people who were talking on the forum, and I was like, oh, I wonder who that is. Could that person be involved? And then it was never addressed, but I will die on this hill. I think Jellyfish was Owen. I think there was a really good end to this book with Emma and Phoebe kind of agreeing to cover for Owen, because throughout the book, Phoebe was, you know, thinking about how their sibling relationships have been so horrible and they've all been so distant and they haven't stuck together, but now in the end they are sticking together to try not to get in a lot of trouble, even though Phoebe didn't do anything wrong. So one of the things that did bother me about this book was how there was a lot of telling instead of showing. There was literally a part when Maeve listed like 5 or 6 emotions that she was feeling. She was like, I'm tired, and I'm sad, and I'm frustrated. Okay, like, you don't need to list off everything you're feeling. It bothered me, obviously, but it really didn't hurt the story that much. It was just kind of annoying. Something interesting that I found was the themes about cell phones. Throughout the book, there were all these little things about kids being kind of addicted to their phones and how harmful it can be. I mean, just look at all the stuff that's happening. It was also kind of the same way with the gossip, like just how harmful it can be and how horrible. All these kids were completely and utterly consumed by it. And is there like really weird light right now? Okay, I had to move over a little bit because the lighting got really weird. Another thing that I was kind of upset by was how the scene with Brandon and Phoebe was handled. Not the scene itself, but how Phoebe kind of reacted to it later, because this really traumatic event happens to her and then she kind of just doesn't really think about it anymore. And I get that there's a lot going on in this book and Phoebe has a lot going on, but I just wish it had been addressed more than it was. Something that I did think was handled really well was the double standards that were happening. So you've got Phoebe, who is being teased relentlessly for having too much sex because she's had sex with a lot of boys, and you have Knox on the other side of things, who is being tormented for not having enough sex because he couldn't do it with Maeve. And I just thought that was really interesting, and I think the author handled that really well and kind of showed the issues with it. Overall, oh my god, the light is coming back. I obviously really enjoyed this book. I had a great time with it. It honestly kept me guessing until the very end. I really had no idea what was happening. It was never boring or cliche, and I don't know, man, I really liked this one. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time with another video. Bye.